starting the recording. All right, so this is our 61st meeting, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I had no idea you're keeping count.
I think
That's nice.
I probably should
You
know.
can only see some on YouTube. They have to be numbered. So probably.
Yeah, true.
It's the 61st. Yes, congratulations. So yeah, on my end, I am still working on some of the HiveMind stuff, trying to merge my stuff. The issue, it's what I spoke about last time. It's I need to basically do the merge conflict, and the SQL has changed, and so I need to dig into this. So I worked a bit into this, but then Krim came back to me and she was like, "Hey, do you have any news on the Rosetta API?" Which is something that I basically stopped doing like 3/4 of the way because there wasn't that much interest into it. And so I figured I'd finish this before moving into the HiveMind stuff again. Also because I'm a bit tired of working on the PGSQL, the deep PGSQL stuff. And so I'm trying to wrap this up, and then I'll finish HiveMind, and then I'll be free-ish for new work. And I don't know when I'll pick up then.
Okay, cool. How's the Rosetta stuff look? I mean, do you think it'll be done? Do you have any idea how long it's going to take to finish it?
I don't really have the issue that I'm done with most of the endpoints, but there is some stuff that I'm struggling with, mostly submitting raw transactions, where they want you to be able to like build a transaction offline, sign it, and then submit like the payload to an API.
Okay, so you're talking about Hive transactions.
Yeah.
Okay, you might want to look at the WAX stuff that they've got.
Yeah, for sure. The issue is I'm not very familiar with TypeScript, so I'd need to do some extra learning on my end. So there is a bit of that, and there is also like all of the actual load testing, aka like spinning a real node, real full node, and making the API work in real life conditions, because I've only tried it in like a test net, so I don't know how performance-wise it's going to go. And for that, I need to spin up a machine, and I don't have a machine, so I need to buy a machine. And anyways,
Gotcha.
it's the usual.
Well, you might be able to do something on a mirror net too, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Gandalf's been trying to get a mirror net set up, so.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
I think you ran into some problems with a power outage, and
yeah, I'm in the middle of starting it back again, and you can imagine how painful it is when it comes to syncing HiveMind from scratch.
For sure, been there. Yeah, right. Okay. That's what I'm working on.
Okay. Actually, I'll probably go last unless I'll let anybody else wants to go first, just so I'll have more time, and because I don't know how long I want to talk. So, anybody else want to take it next?
I can give some updates, at least on the work we're doing on the Hive Block Explorer. So over the past couple of months, we've been doing a lot of work helping out with the whole UI interface. We've added a lot of components to the account page. There's the summary wallet, there's the delegations, vesting delegations, RC delegations. We've been working on some formatting, improvement to the layout overall. Witnesses page, we're collaborating with Dan and the team about different things that might need to be improved with the backend, with indexing, with sorting. So yeah, there's a lot of work being done there. We're trying to expand and maybe help out on other areas as much as we can. I've had actually 3 resources available earlier, but now I have one, so I'm trying to see if I can add more. And I'm doing some development myself as well. So I manage the guys and I do some development whenever I can. Yeah, we're just trying to give some help on this end. So yeah, generally this is it about the help on that side. On ActiveIt, we're doing a lot of updates. We just pushed the iOS version update last week. We pushed an update to the web version last week as well, but we didn't announce it yet. We have an upcoming Android version, hopefully by end of month, with more updates. Yeah, that was just quickly my update.
Sounds great. And a little more
Thank you.
update there at the end.
There's, I think, Dan, there's a couple of MRs. I think they're pending. Maybe they just need now some modifications. I don't know if they can be merged directly.
You're talking about the ones you guys have done, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I left a couple of them open because they were more complicated, and I wanted Jakob to look at those. I merged in some of them. In fact, I merged in one I think yesterday. In fact, but I think the ones that, I can't remember the ones that I left open. I just kind of was going to ask him about, and he was on vacation. He just got back.
Yeah.
So.
It's vacation time. It's August. You would expect it.
Yeah, a lot of our guys are on vacation right now.
Yeah. I'll try to add a few more issues, maybe enhancements to the Block Explorer. Hopefully, in the coming couple of days, I mean, we'll see if we can add some more features or find some issues that can be resolved because the pipeline is getting narrow. So yeah.
Yeah, if you've got any more issues to create, that's also great because I need to keep another guy busy that's working on that too. So
yeah, Lucas. True.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. And my guy as well. I told him I'll send you something tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody else want to talk about what they're working on right now?
Maybe Sagar could introduce because he was early.
Yeah, kind
here
of a new guy here. So.
Okay. Hello. Thank you, Kandal, for allowing me to speak and allowing me to go first. So my name is Sagar, and in our language, Sagar means ocean. I'm from India, and this is like first time I'm joining this Coder meeting. I'm working on Speak Network projects. Two of them are Distriator and the 3Speak. Now let's talk about the 3Speak first. I'm closely working with Leo Finance and coordinating with them to integrate the 3Speak so that they can um, have the feature to publish the short content, and they're almost there. The upload part or video publishing part, it's done. Now they are moving to the next stage, which is showing the short content within the InLeo platform. And about that, I'm going to communicate and have them understand how to implement. Um, and that's the same functionality which we already have in 3Speak application. So if you haven't downloaded the 3Speak mobile application, I would um, recommend you to download the 3Speak app. And within that, we have like two more mini applications. One of them is podcast application, and the other one is Three Sorts. And Team Leo Finance is also trying to achieve the same feature or functionality, which is the three sorts that we have in ThreeSpeak application. So working on that, and of course, while we have these integrations, we tend to find the documentation outdated. So I keep updating the documentation, and I provide the daily updates like on High Blockchain. I put out a post daily. There are two accounts using which I'm publishing the post, about which I would talk soon. Other than this, there are small bug fixes and improvement which I keep on doing on 3Speak. For example, right now I'm required to submit another build to Google Play Store for the 3Speak mobile application. If I don't do that before 31st of this month, they would uh, I don't know, maybe take some strict action. So I need to work on it and re-upload a build with the updated API target or something like that. Now this theater, I think they did an event yesterday or day before yesterday, and it was a successful event. Approximately 40-50 members, they claimed the discount after paying in the HVD and lightning sets. Um, so after the event, staffers suggested a couple of improvements and um, working on those improvements as well. On top of that, apart from this improvements, there are ongoing deployments which I keep on doing on beta because so far business management it's done using another website called Wavio, and we have a website called Spend HBD, which is like built through the Wavio platform. So right now businesses are added on that, and after that we can add it on the distributor. So right now what I'm working on is like the business management should be done on distributor directly. Business guides or administrators, they should be able to add the businesses, verified businesses on distributor platform directly. And it should go other way around. Like, once we add it here on distributor, it should go and reflect on um, Wavio and Spend HBD as well. So that's what we're working on. It's on beta. On top of that, the other requirement is that, like, whenever I'm trying to add a business, I should be able to find all the place details. Like, you zoom into a particular place, this is the restaurant. On Google Maps, you can see the photographs, you can see all the details, website, phone number, and work timings and everything. So I've integrated Google Places API, Google Photos API, and with that, like, we are trying to make a smoother experience, a better experience for business guides to add a business. And so far, we have onboarded 300 businesses across the world. And in order to see, like, how many businesses, what all you have to do is just go to distributor.com. 1 minute, I will drop a link, or if you want, I can share my screen. And then once you land on that, from the left side, you would see businesses, and over there you would see the businesses which are added so far. And now, if you are interested in knowing which country, which city, on top right corner, next to search button, you would find a filter. So you'd find all the countries over there and the cities. So these are the businesses which we have added so far. What's next in this? In this theater, we're planning to add more and more businesses. That's there. On top of that, we are also trying to support the online purchase. So the businesses which support online shopping. And let's say you get a delivery after a day. So what would happen? Or after a week, what would happen? Like so far, the limit to claim it's around 30 minutes or up to 2 hours only. So we're working on this theater to support online businesses as well. So these are two projects on which I'm actively working. Now, these are the projects coming under SpeakNet. Now, on top of this, I have my own ideas, own applications, which I can say self-funded and which I would like to build for Hive ecosystem. So I have built this application called Inbox, or say Hive Inbox. It's heavily inspired by Arcane's application uh, named Engaged. So um, that's one, and there are more applications like this which I would like to build, like Hive Polls, Hive Vote. Vote meaning that you can vote for a proposal or vote for a witness, then donate and chat. So these are the ideas that I have in my mind to build for the Hive platform and put it on App Store, because if you go on App Store or Play Store, so far we have just two apps. or say three apps. It's like you can count it at fingers. Hive Keychain, Hive Auth, um, 3Speak, and Ascensi. Now, apart from this, if you say, do we have any other app on the App Store or Play Store? We don't. If you want to have more users from Web2 platform to Web3, which is Hive, we need to have a presence on Web2 platform as well. And that's what my goal is. Like we provide number of applications on App Store. So with that, we can showcase, like we can give them a portfolio of applications that these are the apps that we are offering. I know that we do have a list of apps on Hive IoD apps, but having app on App Store and Play Store also makes an impact. Of course, not for Web3 users, but it does make an impact to Web2 users, and that's why I'm building this application. But if you guys think that instead of working on this ideas, which I'm like working on my own, if you have some better idea, some uh, some ideas, if you have, feel free to share and I can work on it. Yeah, so that sums up my update. And if you have query feedback, just feel free to share with me.
Okay, sounds good. I don't know if anybody had any immediate questions. I had one question I didn't really understand. You mentioned short content. Was that like I think that's what you said. Was that like short content, like tweets, or was it more like short content, like shorts and video?
Short content like three videos,
Okay, so
90
short videos.
second videos. Yes,
Okay. That's what I was thinking. I assumed it might be video. It was probably videos, but that's
yes,
cool.
it is
Okay,
videos. Yes.
okay, great. Anybody else? Archange, did you want to talk about anything you've been working on lately, or?
Uh, I'm not talking about something I work because I'm still on vacation. I've
Okay.
yeah. But I just have one question. You recently released the preview of the REST API
Yes. Yeah, I was
and
going to talk about that a
and
bit.
Swagger documentation.
Mhm.
You will talk about it?
Yeah, I was planning on it. But if
Yeah.
you had any
But
specific questions, you can ask
yeah,
now.
my question was: is there any work being done in coordination with what Good Karma was doing about revamping the whole developer portal? Uh, I've had any news about his progress on that work, but I would like to know if there was some coordination made.
Not exactly. Basically, the they're kind of there's kind of like two forms of documentation, I guess you could say. The Swagger docs are just kind of like, I mean, I think they're very useful. Honestly, I think they're the most important form of docs in my opinion, because they give you like a nice, easy way to test an API call very quickly, right? You could just go to the web page and add some parameters and see the results. And for me, that's often, and it's got a short description. So I really like the Swagger style of documentation a lot. But there is kind of this other form of documentation which is more conceptual in nature, right? Which is sort of gives you an overview of, the whole Hive programming environment and software development environment, and should talk more about like how you'd go about developing an API, how you'd go about using an API. So there's different pieces, I think. So that kind of documentation is I think Hive. I mean, the website we have now, the Hive development website now, kind of does both, right? It describes the API calls, and it also has more high level stuff that gives you general theory of Hive programming. And so I think I see the Swagger part as sort of replacing the existing function by function description, but it's obviously we still will always need that hard high level conceptual description. And so that's where I see, that we haven't done a lot on that side. We've been mainly focused on just the low level documentation for all the new API calls. um, I haven't directly talked to Good Karma much, but I mean, I mean, it's kind of two different efforts too, because he's documenting the existing API, whereas we're really the Swagger docs are all documenting the new REST API. So with that, maybe I'll just sort of, I think that probably answers your question immediately, and I'll just sort of go over what we're doing a little bit more. So I was kind of wondering really what to talk about today because it's been a while since we met and a lot of stuff's been going on, and I don't really think I have time to go through a lot of it. Um, and I'm going to write a post probably in a week or two that describes in more detail some of the stuff we're doing. But I did want to talk a little bit about the thing that Arcane's just mentioned, which is the REST API stuff, because that's quite new and sort of part of the new direction we're going in. So this all for me started, I guess, when we first started, when Hive first got launched, we were all talking about redoing the API because the existing legacy API that we had is kind of a bit of a, I mean, it's powerful, but it's a bit of a mess, and it's been created over time. So we kind of talked about refactoring a lot of things and organizing it more and making it more efficient. And so for at least the past 2 years, I'd say that's kind of where I've been focusing our efforts, but we've been trying to do it in a kind of incremental way. So the first thing I kind of wanted to do was get Half working, because Half is basically a method of creating new APIs so that it makes it easier for anybody to create a new API for Hive. So before we had HiveMind, but other than that, if you want to create APIs, there was no standardized way to do it. You could go into Hive D itself and modify Hive D, but that was kind of problematic because every time you add a new API called a Hive D, that increases the load on our network nodes, and we really don't want to do that. So, I mean, everybody kind of got the idea that what we really needed to do is get the data out into a database and work with it there. But I didn't really want to have everybody creating their own different database structures that were incompatible and couldn't work together. So the whole point of Half was sort of create a common database infrastructure that could then be used by API nodes to quickly add new APIs to their stacks. And I think we've accomplished that pretty well now, and that I think we've got a good flow. The last release we did with the Half API node stuff really solidified an easy way to add new API sets to an API node server itself. And so the next step is we're looking at is, so far we have added a few new APIs like Balance Tracker and the Half Block Explorer and things like that. But so next kind of phase is I wanted to move away from the JSON RPC style calls that we've had for so long to a more, I think, a more natural REST-based interface. So we've been working on that for the past, I guess, several months at least. And that there's several parts to this. So the first thing is we had needed to add these APIs to our half applications. So we've added a REST-based interface to basically Balance Tracker, um, Half Block Explorer, um, what else? Reputation Tracker. So just as an aside, Reputation Tracker is a new app we've created that basically just takes out the calculations for the reputation that were in HiveMind and brings it into a separate application. So we've added a REST-based interface for that, and one more. I'm trying to remember what it is. Halfa itself. I think I missed that one. So even Halfa itself now has a REST-based application. API. And when we did that, we also moved some of the more useful functions that existed inside the Half Block Explorer API server into Halfa. And the reason we did that was those are all API calls that didn't require any indexing. So one of the differences between the Halfa application and all the other Half apps is that there's no indexing required to get it ready. It's if once Half is indexed, once Half itself is indexed, Halfa is indexed. So that's kind of a nice feature about it. It's very low overhead in that sense. So you can get it going pretty quick. So I mean, like kind of a minimal API node, Half API node can have Halfa ready out of the box. So as much as possible, whenever there's the functions that can be written that don't require any additional indexes or tables, I'm kind of decided I'm going to sort of try to move them towards the Halfa interface, just so that those things are available immediately without replays of other apps. So we did move several, I think, very natural calls from the Half Block Explorer interface directly into Halfa. And if you've had a chance to look at the new REST API interface, you'll see there's several new such API calls available. I think everybody here's probably already seen. I'm guessing most have already seen the new interface, but I'm going to put it in here just in case anyone hasn't. And hopefully I sent the right link because I just typed it from memory. and yep, it's there. So if you want to take a look at that, if you haven't already, there's a drop down in the top right corner that allows you to pick the different APIs. And then once you pick an API, you can go read through the documentation for it and try out the function calls. Now, this is in combination with this, the other sort of thing we need to do along with adding the new REST APIs themselves is a library to support them, of course, is nice and useful. I mean, you can make the direct REST API calls yourself, but having a library that smooths things out is obviously convenient. And so that's the other thing we've been doing lately is we've been updating the Wax library to support the REST calls directly. I think we'll probably be finished that in, I think, the next week. This week, I mean. We're also, just in passing, I'll also mention we're still cleaning up Wax itself prior to its official release. I'm hopeful we're going to be able to release it by the beginning of September. We're moving really fast and just trying to get it's been working for a while and we're using it in a bunch of our applications, but there was just several places where I wanted the interfaces to feel more natural and intuitive. So some of it's me. Besides the REST work, there's also just me pushing some of the guys to make it, I think, a more intuitive interface. And I think that's going to be done quite soon too. So then we've got a few weeks, I think, to do the documentation. So that's why I say it's probably be the beginning of September for an official release. And maybe I'm being optimistic, but I don't think so. So with that completed, along with doing that, in order to sort of test Wax in the meantime, we're also have several applications that are using the new Wax version of the libraries. So in particular, the REST features that were being added. So we're sort of testing with actual code, if you will. We're mainly testing it right now with the Block Explorer UI. So we've got a branch of the Block Explorer UI that's replacing the JSON RPC calls and Wax-based JSON RPC calls with the equivalent REST ones. And we've also, of course, since we changed those APIs some, the Wax, the REST APIs return slightly different data than the old JSON RPC calls we had for Half Block Explorer do. So we're having to change the Block Explorer a little bit to deal with the new data that's coming back. But again, I think they were all improvements in terms of the interfaces, much more logical and a little more efficient too. So beyond those, so that's kind of I think the most important thing that's going on right now is the movement to REST, the documentation for REST, the flow we've created for documenting future APIs using Swagger. As part of that, we actually created a script that will basically scan your SQL files, and you put in Open API comments into the code, and that's what is used to generate the Swagger files. And it's also actually generates the interfaces to the actual calls themselves, the SQL code itself. So basically, this is guaranteeing that the documentation, the documented interfaces will match the actual code interfaces. So we don't have to worry about those getting out of sync. Let's see what else. So I guess first before I talk about anything else we've been doing, I'll just open up the floor if anybody has any questions about the whole movement towards REST, the Swagger documentations, or Wax itself, or what we're doing there. I don't know if there is. Maybe there's not, but I just figured I'd give a chance on that quick.
I just have one question. All those REST APIs, they are all served by one web server, or each component has its own web server
providing
the REST API?
Web server. That's right. So basically this is basically, these are behind, it's basically just a normal half API node server like everybody's running now. What we've done is there's just a separate Postgres T for each set of APIs. So there's a Postgres T for the Block Explorer. There's a Postgres T server for the balance tracker, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also separate, right now, there's a separate Swagger. Well, there's one Swagger. That's wrong. There's one Swagger for each one. Another thing we did, which I guess I didn't talk about, was in order to implement some of the fancier REST type calls that weren't really supported natively by PostgreST, uh, we added ability to generate rewrite rules for your for the web server. Right now, it's for Nginx specifically. So when the calls first go through Nginx, and it'll rewrite the ones as necessary into so that then they go to like a standardized format that PostgreST could understand at the end. But that allowed us to implement, uh, calls where, for instance, you're putting parameters into the path versus putting them in as query strings. So as a simple example, you could do something like block slash, and then you can put in a block number, and that's your whole URL, and that's your query without having to include a query string to specify what the block number you're interested in is. It looks like Gandalf is showing some of this. So yeah, you can see there's an example. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see see that second one there. It says block slash block number. That's an example of one of those types. I was just mentioning where the rewrite rules come into play. I think you're only able to get, actually, yeah, I think you're actually right. We have, this is a full half node, so you can get any of the blocks. This is a live block explorer. The one I was testing with for a while only had 5 million blocks, but then we moved to the full production API server we're running here. So any other questions about why we're doing this or what the benefits are? Or
Yes, I have another question. So
sure.
I saw in the API preview that there is one API to retrieve blocks operations. So before we had, if I remember, I think I opened an issue with 6 different ways to retrieve blocks, and sometimes with virtual operation, only operations, and there are structures a different way. So I guess this new API would replace the previous IVD1, and will it be as performant as directly
yes, it is
calling
just
an IVD1?
Yeah, this is just as performant, if not more performant than anything we've had before. And yeah, it's basically does everything now. You can filter based on virtual types, real operations, or you can have specific operations. If you want to filter on particular operations you want to see as well.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, that was a good question. So yeah, like I said, this is one of the drivers for all this was the refactoring of the API into something more rational. And we're still open, of course, to comments if anybody sees improvements they want to make before we do the official release. It'd be better to do it before we release than after. But so I appreciate anybody takes the time to go over it and look at it. Even if you only see documentation changes to make, that's also something that'd be quite useful to get any. I've reviewed it somewhat, but I still feel there's probably improvements that can be made in the docs. So anything that you find confusing in the Swagger documentation, especially, let me know. I mean, offline, not here, obviously, but just file an issue or something in GitLab or mention in Mattermost if not. So that's, anyone else have, I guess first, anyone else have any questions about this stuff before I move on to other stuff we're working on? Okay, I'm going to take that as no questions. I guess we're also working on a bunch of the other apps, of course. One of the things I've been involved with lately is Clive. Clive is basically a command line and basically sort of like a cursor style interface wallet. So very old school wallet. And the idea behind it is to replace the CLI wallet, the old CLI wallet that we've had forever, and also to have like a nice wallet that can be used for doing things like offline signing and stuff like that, which we've really had no really good solution for a long time for doing offline signing in a friendly way. And it also is going to have a lot more features. Somebody just recently was asking for the ability for a user to easily create transactions with several operations, and so Clive can do that. I'm my involvement is mainly I'm coming in as a UI consultant to complain a lot about things I don't like, and sort of get some of the UI changed. And that progress is we're making pretty good progress there. So I'm hopeful that maybe by Hive Fest we'll have something I think reasonable to show. We've been releasing alpha releases just for anybody who wants to help us out and test and stuff like that. But I hope to get more active and push people harder to do some testing once the next wave of changes come out in probably the next 2 weeks, I guess. Let's see what else. So you guys probably also know that we're working on something called Denser, which is a condenser replacement. And so I think everybody here knows, but just in case anyone listening doesn't know, condenser is basically the code that drives sites like hive.blog. That's the actual code name of the code base. So that whole code base, we're rewriting a new version with more modern technology that's easier to maintain and would be built off using Wax. So it's a good place for us to test the Wax interface too. And as part of that, we're also building a lot of infrastructure that'll be useful to other applications. We built Beekeeper, which is a technology for securely storing private keys. We built HBAuth, which is a sort of it's a separate sign-in library for people to log in and things like that. And there's various other little apps that we've been creating along the way that I think will be useful to multiple applications, and I'll probably talk about them more in my post. Other than that, HiveMind is we did do we have made a change to half to simplify it, creating half apps and reduce the chance that somebody can make an error when using half when they're designing a half app. I mean, so we redesigned the loop that the main loop that apps use to process data from the blockchain and put it into their tables. Just avoids issues that could happen when people are doing commits and things like that and get interrupted. If the app gets interrupted, it will be interrupted in a more stable state. Um, and along with that, we've done that in half. And we've been updating all the apps to use that new loop, including HiveMind. And along with that in HiveMind, we've been basically doing a bunch of refactorings of the code there in order to improve, I guess, both the code's maintainability and also its performance. I think hopefully I haven't checked in with the progress lately. I can see that work's going on, but I don't know exactly how far we are. But I'm hopeful that we can get something ready for release by Hive Fest for that too. But we'll see. Let's see what else. I mentioned a bunch of other things in passing, like reputation tracker. Let's see. Anything else? I don't know. Gandalf, can you think of anything? Because I'm running out of list. Oh, I remembered something. Sorry. Light accounts. So the other thing we're still working on is light accounts. And we've got a prototype application now that will process basically this. So it's a light accounts app is essentially another half app. And what it does is it scans the blockchain for changes to keys that people make, and this is so initially the first thing it's doing right now is processing all the operations that when people use to change their keys. So it creates a table of the state of what people's current keys are. So we'll have that information in half, and but it's to manage more than just existing Hive keys. The idea is it creates a way to make second layer keys. So somebody can basically register keys at the second layer. And once the keys are registered in the Light Accounts app using the new basically custom JSON operations, then any app can know that those keys are tied to that account. So a second layer app can now these keys can be used across multiple second layer apps. Any app that bothers to subscribe to the Light Accounts interface will know whose keys those keys belong to, for instance. And they can register the type of key so that they can say this key is only useful for these type of operations, et cetera, et cetera. So the Light Accounts work is in progress, and right now, like I said, it's processing primarily the built-in Hive calls, the Hive operations, and next we'll be adding support for the custom JSON operations. The Light Accounts project is pretty important, not only because it allows us to do this key registration, but we're also building a lot of very basic technology for handling what I would call second layer transactions. So we've got first layer transactions where you can stick a bunch of operations into a Hive transaction, and the operations only succeed if all the operations succeed. Otherwise, the transaction fails and other things happen. And we needed a similar mechanism at the second layer. So as part of the light accounts work, we're also building all the technology for processing second layer transactions. Other work is going on is we're doing some final cleanup work on the support for light nodes. So I hope we'll be able to release a version soon that has light node support. And this is basically light nodes, just for the terminology I'm using, it basically means nodes that don't need to store all the blocks. So for instance, can keep the last 1 million blocks or no blocks at all even. And just this is mainly useful for, I think this will primarily be useful for a lot of servers and things where people are space constrained and don't want to store 500 gigabytes of data, just to have a Hive node running there for their server. Obviously, people running witness nodes should tend to keep at least their main node with a full block log and have to deal with 500 gigs, but that's life. Let's see. There's certainly more, but like I said, that's just too much for me to keep in my brain at one time. So unless Gandalf could think of anything else I should mention, I'll probably leave it at that.
No, I think so. I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot going on, but I guess more details about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
all
mostly
those.
a lot of details. Yeah, so it's better put into a post. I guess anybody had any questions about any things we're doing right now, or
I have
ideas?
one question regarding light nodes.
Mhm.
Will they be able to broadcast transactions, or are they just for reading information?
Oh yeah, they can. You mean can they process you mean can they be API nodes? Is that what you're asking?
I would not say a full API nodes, but just using it to broadcast a transaction.
Yes, broadcasters. Yes, that's one of the.
Yeah. They can. They can be used as full. They can be used as full API nodes. So you can literally run your API node and have it with no block log. The only thing would be a problem is looking up block data, but that's actually going away because that's actually not a problem anymore either, because nowadays we have HAFA, so the block log data is stored in the HAF database, not in the so yeah, these can be essentially full API nodes. I expect the API nodes will probably move to this model of running light nodes before long.
Yes, I think we should start expecting witnesses to provide seed nodes that can actually provide blocks.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
seed
think
nodes
that's
that are seed nodes, because everything else can be prunet nodes without block log.
right. Exactly. So yeah, we will obviously need to have somebody who steps up and stores the data. So witnesses seem like a good choice for that.
Unless you want me to have the only version of all blocks,
Yeah.
I will happily step up.
Then you can blackmail everyone later. Would you like a copy of the block log? How much are you willing to pay?
Yeah.
And then I have another question regarding libraries. Currently, if we want to encrypt and decrypt memos, we have to use RFGS because I believe that's the only library that's able to do it. So if you use another library and you just want to encrypt and decrypt memos, you have to import, if not all, at least parts of RFGS. So will there be another way to do that with the new libraries you have created?
So Wax will support encryption. In fact, we've got it supports encryption right now. But I'm kind of looking at the encryption the way it's being done now, and I have some changes I want to make to it, mostly at the interface level, not the actual code. The code that does the encryption is all fine, but I would like to make some changes too. And that's an active issue. I think will probably be done in the next week, 2 weeks. But yeah, it does support encryption now, for that matter. But
Okay.
it's just not the way I want to do it.
And will it be a separate model just for encryption? Because
No, it's I mean there's just Wax. It's part of the
So-
base Wax library.
so we'll have to import the whole Wax library.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's for sure. There's somebody has asked. I think Vaultec was asking if we could make a trimmed down version of the library, and we might. We'll probably look into that at some point, but it's not a trivial thing to undertake
Mhm.
because part of the way Wax works is we took a bunch of basically the core protocol of the C++ code and used it, basically wrote this interface code in protobuf language, and then we generate WASM code for that. So the nice thing about this technique is it means that the algorithms used by Wax will always match the ones used internally by HiveD itself, but it does come at a cost of a kind of large WASM library that gets imported in. And
Okay.
maybe what we could look at some point is if we can trim down that WASM library into different sections, different parts of features. So if somebody doesn't want all the features that are there, maybe we could, for instance, say they're not generating transactions, so they don't need any of the code associated with transactions, then we could maybe make that into a separate sub-library or something like that. But these are just my initial thoughts on the matter. I have not looked into what it would take to do the trim down yet.
Okay, perfect. Looking to the future.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. I guess, Howell, you want to take us out?
Yeah, I don't have anything else on my plate really. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you, everyone, and see you next month.
Thanks. See you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.